Thank you, everybody. Sorry about that. Looks like our storms in Cape Town are wreaking havoc on our connection today. Thank you, Barton, for your patience. Okay, coming back to online yoga, TTCs, and how applicable it is at the moment, and does it work? I thought that perhaps the rate at which people were jumping on that bandwagon to get their marketing out so soon after lockdown started, it really surprised me.
Well, and so I joined in on both Zooms. I have obviously many students and fellows that were doing it, so I participated, and it wasn't it was a disaster. That's why most people dropped it fairly quickly.
Oh,
And so, you know, it's one thing. It takes a lot of practice to teach. So that's why it's very important for teachers to have a 200 hour, but to actually then to get actual experience teaching.
yes.
Critical. And so I think the difficulty in teaching on a Zoom class is very difficult. Very difficult to see the alignment, to make sure everyone's syncing with you, to get the breath together. I mean, there's a lot that go into a yoga class, and it's not about doing postures. And so, or just demonstrating poses. There's so much more to it.
I know when I was choosing, sorry, when I was choosing a TTC, I know that I wanted to have an authentic experience, but not only that, there were so many things I needed to rehabilitate myself out of. And for that, I needed to take myself out of my normal environment and into something that would be beneficial as a retreat or a getaway for myself.
Well, and that's exactly right. Doing the 200 hour or a 500 hour, I even recommend more, because that's 9 weeks of pulling yourself out of whatever you're in. Because I also have done a 200 hour by doing just weekends. And so I did 9 months of weekends one time, and about 5 years ago, and I was already experienced, but it was almost worthless.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure for
somebody
for someone who has that kind of discipline, I can believe that it would be great. There is part of the course that is academic, but the physical side of it, I remember I had to be forced into twists and really extend myself much further than what I thought I was capable of. And if I wasn't shown that, I wouldn't have known.
I agree, and that's part of the continuation of the 4-week program, because and I'm sure you had similar about the middle of the second, you were broken. You're broken by a 14-hour day of yoga, and your mind is cracked, and your body is at an edge where you think you can't go on.
Yes.
And so, and I did a course in Dharamsala with Wim Hof. It was an course, and half of the students dropped out at the end of the first week, and they had paid $1,500. They dropped out because they didn't take the mental.
I was just going to say, I see. Oh, sorry.
It's very critical, that mental wall. The physical wall is one thing, but the physical wall is really our mental wall. And I watched this very large class of experienced yogis drop out because they couldn't take the mental discipline that's required, and that's one of the keys to really is the discipline. First, that is the first of the sutras is now begins discipline, and so that's 1.1 on the Yoga Sutra is now it begins discipline. Yes. And discipline is something that you learn in a course. It's much more difficult to learn discipline on a computer.
Well, I suppose in that whole concept of discipline is really the shedding of the ego. And I've seen the healthiest people with great mental clarity come into these courses, and by the second week, as you say, not just the body being broken, but the mind, the spirit completely transforming itself. And it is a very intensive experience. And I certainly would encourage people then to rather not go for the online option, even if it's being discounted now, because the value and the quality will never be the same.
Never. I just can't see it, even though we're going that direction in the world online, and with this coronavirus and not being able to be around people. I still think that that in my opinion is that the people that will do that are simply going for the certificate, so that they can teach. And that's a whole other can of worms, because if you want insurance in this world, you have to be Yoga Alliance certified. You want to insure yourself.
Yes.
And so then that it's going to be very difficult for the Yoga Alliance or anyone to monitor quality of an online school. I think that's even more difficult than an in-person school. Those are just my
coming back to Yoga Alliance. We haven't heard much from them at all. And I do wonder now, are they reassessing their standards for shifting everything online as it has? And how will they readjust the cost of signing up with them? I know I was paying something like $50 a year. And from me being from South Africa, I wasn't seeing the benefit or the support from Yoga Alliance. What do you suggest there?
Well, and so I'm conflicted with it. I obviously don't mind it, but I also am an American, and the money is less to me than it is to other people. So and now that I'm an E500, I like having that designation. But I look at what does it actually provide for me, and honestly, nothing. Just the fact that you can go on there and you can see where I taught, education, and my experience. That's it. And so I cannot tell you if it's actually gained me anything. And actually, it probably is not. But yet, and I don't carry insurance, and I probably should. When I teach in India, when I teach here in Bali, I don't have. And so, on that end, what is the value of it?
Yes.
And so
we had
let me finish. So what is the value of it? And so with our other partner that we have, you and I, looking at doing the yoga school and getting it fully certified. And so if you follow their recommendations, and which they're fairly extensive, and they want to have a list of everything that you're going to do, and if you follow what you turn into them, provide a proper amount. And so the thing so I do like that, because for them to give us the certification, they want to have a list of everything we're going to do. They want our syllabus, they want the hours, they have a certain requirement. And so that's a good thing. And so if nothing less, when a school gets certified, they at least know what they have to teach. Whether they teach that or not, that is the issue I think that we encounter the most, is are they going to actually monitor what is being taught? And I don't think they do.
Yes.
Actually, with what's going on in Rishikesh, so in other places too. I've heard more complaints about Goa than I've heard about Rishikesh.
Yeah.
And so
I think the point of today as well is just to reiterate to the community that we're putting our thoughts and opinions out there. We're certainly not saying that everybody must listen to how we are saying that they must do it this way, but get involved with the conversation. And coming back to the essence of what we're creating here, we're creating divine souls. A yogi is someone who's come into union with mind, body, spirit, and higher consciousness, whether you want to call that God or source or spirit. And we're just wanting to see more of that truth and clarity and honesty coming through on our platforms.
Agreed. And the general consensus is when people go through these rules that give the proper teaching, they have life transforming experiences. That is the most common thing that you'll hear is their life was transformed. And so one of the courses that I was teaching in was I labeled it "What's Next?" Very popular. And so now what? And so what do you do? How do you take your ideas that you've learned and then take them home with you?
Absolutely.
Because it's all good while you're in Rishikesh or Dharamsala or Goa or Pushkar. You have all the yoga and all the spirituality around you, and then when you go home, and so one of the things that I was trying to impart to the freshly graduated students is how to take your ideas home with you, how to take what you've learned and to integrate it into the rest of your life. Whenever how to own in America, because America being different, people don't own, and they look at you funny when you try to get people say, "Hey, I'm going to do that, but I don't want to do the spirituality part." And so it's
I think
weird,
here most importantly, of course, we need leaders, but we're not in competition with everybody here. I must also say that my own journey, unleashing this creative potential through my yoga practice, has brought so much expansion and abundance into my life. And because we're all so individual, every individual will have a different transformation, and they'll realize their divine purpose if they are dedicating and devoting time to their practice on a daily basis.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so what we can help do, in my opinion, is help people to make sure that that experience is what they expected when they came.
Hmm.
Especially one of the issues I'm seeing in another conscious community that I'm in is safety of women. These young coming to these cities and with a different culture, and we need them to feel safe.
Yeah.
Be able to most from it and still feel safe in an environment that might be a little different than what they're used to.
Well, I know that I personally am quite excited to get back to Rishikesh after this lockdown period. I know that the natural environment is just thriving.
Yes, I'm looking to get up into Kedarnath and Badrinath, and because that the pollution levels down and the river's cleaner and up, and I love monsoon. I love India in monsoon.
Yes.
So my flight was March 13th, so I was heading back right whenever they closed the borders, basically, and so I missed the hot, very hot, and now I'm going to miss the monsoon.
Yes. Oh, Rishikesh is so diverse, but more than anything, being alongside the Ganga River, which is coming straight out of the foothills of the Himalayas there, it's clean, and the forests are just absolutely amazing. I'm going to encourage everybody on behalf of us to join Rishikesh Yogis Community and stay connected with us to see what is happening on the ground there in the future, and to encourage our yogis to get involved with service. Do more karma yoga. It really is freeing and purifying, especially during this time when we feel very trapped physically and emotionally. And I'm sending you all my love and blessings.
Yes. Well, we got to see the world changed a little bit with this coronavirus, and so we've seen how fragile people's psyches. We've seen how fragile the economies are. We've seen how little that people have actually saved up monetarily and spiritually. How easy the food is. The food chain is easy to get out of. The animals. There's a lot of suffering came. But I saw a similar situation during demonetization. That was a strange time to be in India also.
Yes,
And
that
so,
was, whew, it really cut off my limbs. I didn't know what to do with myself for weeks on end.
you know, but what I found was that the generosity of Beacon was amazing. And so that's why I fell more in love during demonetization than ever, because I was no longer a paycheck. I was a burden because I had no money either. That was
But for Rishikesh being the yoga capital of the world, I would like it that we didn't have to wait for a crisis to start before we see all this wonderful giving and loving.
yeah. And so with a country of 1.5 billion people, anytime that you have a tourist magnet, which is the yoga schools, you're going to also bring hireable people, touts, for nothing less. And so sometimes it takes correction, and this is just another correction. If you can't handle the downturn, then your business model wasn't strong.
Yes.
And that's a lesson to learn. But a lot of these, because I mean, you know, I have a lot of friends who are struggling critically, and you know, and honestly, their business models weren't very strong. And so, you know, this is yoga is it shouldn't be a business, but if you're going to make it a business, you still have to have a strong business model.
Absolutely.
And so,
and I think it's so important then moving forward, when the schools do open, to let's look at what is happening with our NGOs and our welfare related organizations and see how we can make more of an abundance model between our ashrams and schools, so that when crisis like this does happen, we don't have to start running around. You know, we have the platform to communicate and provide the resources necessary.
agreed. And so this is, whenever I first went to Rishikesh, there was 10 schools. I think there's 300.
Yeah.
So you know, I helped with part of that problem. I mean, I was, you know, some of my teachers are that I've had, or there's about 15 schools that I've been involved with. And so literally the proliferation of schools has been an issue.
Yes.
And so, you know, we get a complaint one month or so a month now. But if you think about this, when we first started doing this, we were getting complaints every other day. I got messages of comments and things about every other day. At least once a week, we would get a major issue. Now we're seeing very little of that. And so I don't have I thought about this about 2 weeks ago when we first wanted to have our meeting about how was that? What has caused the downturn, and what's caused it?
I think I might have an answer to that, and that really is because it was way too money and business based in the beginning. I'm not talking about in the beginning, maybe 10 years ago, but Rishikesh has become very much monetized and commercial. And I think as soon as you stop the influx of tourism coming in there, there's no way to move forward. So this is something certainly that we can look at in the future. Barton, I think we've hit our time limit for today. I want to thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close this meeting?
We're getting weather issues. But, no, I believe that that's correct. The more we make it a business in Rishikesh, the more Rishikesh is a business, then the more problems that it's countered. And so hopefully we can come up with some ideas. I think we do have some good ideas that we can get implemented over the next year, 2 years, and really be a big benefit to Rishikesh.
And thank you very much for your time and your partnership. It's been great going on this journey with you. Namaste.
Yes. Namaste.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We do apologize for any problems that might have been experienced with sound, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon. Bye-bye.